Welcome everyone, this is On This Restart, and today we have some pretty exciting news. We got a new update for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and we have a new release date for the game. The game was initially slated for September, but now it's coming out this July 29th. So as opposed to just keeping to the September timing or delaying the game as we've seen with other projects, we are getting it sooner, 2 months sooner, which is just an amazing thing that I've never really seen happen before, at least that I can think of from Nintendo. This is an anti-delay, which is just incredibly exciting. We're getting this epic game sooner than expected, a lot sooner than expected, and we've gotten a pretty good, awesome new trailer to come alongside of it that gives us some pretty awesome new details too. So today we're going to be talking about is this new release timing, what does that sort of mean for everything else to some extent, and then also we'll be discussing the trailer itself and just sort of analyzing it a little bit. But before we jump into things, let me first very quickly talk about my social media. You may see a few different things here on the screen. You can check that all out. It is linked in the description below. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here, you can subscribe or perhaps consider joining as a member. So we'll talk a little bit about the release timing situation in a bit, but I first want to just kind of focus on this trailer and some of the new details here because they're pretty epic. So I'm just going to kind of play the trailer and pause it here and there, sort of talking about different elements that we see. Okay, obviously it's rated teen. So,
you monsters!
Already this is interesting to me. This red eye, you know, it does kind of remind me of other characters in the past to some extent, but also, as we'll see throughout the trailer, this red eye seems to be almost blinding to those respective characters, or rather, it's kind of playing some sort of illusion for them, and that could have some huge story implications, but we'll kind of let the trailer press on here. It's a giant mechon looking like thing.
We're your friends here.
Notice how you said we're your friends here, right? So there is kind of like this confusion with the main cast of characters. Why are they getting attacked by people that they thought they were their friends? Well, I think it has to do with this red eye. This red eye is sort of casting some sort of illusion, as I think the trailer will further sort of evidence. There you go. Those weird silhouettes.
The world, our enemy.
So throughout the trailer, we hear this term Ouroboros, which reminds me of the bracelet in Xenoblade Chronicles X. There may be something else to here that I have sort of missed, but just kind of something I want to point out. There we also see the red eye again in this other character.
Even though we're being chased by both nations at once.
Both sides are attacking these people.
There has to be.
That's why!
Let's go!
And then we get our first look at the actual battle system, and the tweet that Nintendo puts out actually confirms that we can have up to 7 characters in our party at once battling. And here we see 6, and it's pretty interesting because it looks like it's definitely taking some cues from Xenoblade 2 with the right side, where I'm going to assume that the different buttons you press, like A, X, Y, B, will match the different sort of arts you have in the right. But then there's some other elements like tactics to the left side, which may give you different options to do in terms of moving around and such, as we see like an evade option. But in the right side, there's also a ZR that says fusion. So I think that's interesting, and I think the trailer will sort of suggest more about that in a moment. So let's continue on with the trailer here. And it looks like you move individually, right? So at first, what I was sort of wondering, I was wondering if it was like kind of more like it was just 3 characters, but 2 characters in one, kind of like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Torn of the Golden Country, where characters would pair up together, so like a blade and a driver. But the more I look at this, it seemed more like it's literally 6 individual characters on screen, any which one you choose. There's Mia, or Mio, I should say.
What is that thing?
You've got a real death wish.
So, strong looking baddie over there. The visuals just look great in this game.
Now, kids, you share a common destiny.
Now you see this, they get phased out.
Thoughts. There were so many.
There's clearly probably some sort of romance between them.
How are you inside me?
But at the very least, you see them fusing, which is awesome.
Are we?
And it's not just them that confuse, as we'll see. So it looks like each of these characters sort of pair up, have this sort of bond, and can fuse together.
Take that form via a strong desire or emotion.
And now they're like super strong. But notice something, right? So like you look at the left side here, right? Like we'll see the different characters, and then Lons and Senna are fused right now, and there's like somewhat of a warning gauge. So that might be warning them when they're going to run out of their fusion. But let me see if I can go back a little bit, because there's another shot we see. All right, so that, yeah, Uni and Talon, it seems to be that the gauge is not as high. There's also a level meter to it. Okay, it's increasing as they fight on. So it's probably a limit to their fusion. Makes sense.
Henceforth, all orders are rescinded.
Okay, so here's the other thing. It's been widely speculated that Melia and Nia are the two leaders of the two different factions that are fighting each other. And it makes you wonder, why would they do that? Because they're both really good characters. Like, they weren't evil, and they're sort of being casted as maybe evil characters in Xenoblade 3. Well, we just saw that Red Eye thing that seems to be playing some sort of mirage or casting an illusion of some sort, manipulating these characters. So I feel like there's a pretty darn good chance they are also being manipulated. And we even have the masks on them conveniently, which one sort of hides their true identity, but also hides whether they have a red eye or not. That could be sort of explaining why they are leading their forces to be doing these things that seem to be, antagonistic. But let's continue on here.
Eliminate Ouroboros at all costs.
That is my
Just more cool more elements here. Same thing with Nia.
It's a wild ride.
It just, I love the music. It just seems epic. Yo, no. Check, this is cool. This is cool. Wait for it. So his sword transforms into something that's like faster, right? And then his arm transforms into some sort of cool red arm thing. Like his sword changes. That's super cool. It reminds me of a few different animes actually.
Why is my name on here?
My way demands we fight.
Okay.
And test your mettle against.
See, these guys kind of remind me of some blades from Xenoblade 2. Oh wait, check this out. Okay, so like we get a few more shots of the battle system. We're gonna have to do like a full like battle system analysis later on, but you'll now see it's not just 6 different characters, it's 7 individual characters in the party fighting. That's pretty darn cool. That's a whole other level of the amount of party options we've had in the Xenoblade game before. So they're definitely taking things to a whole other level here, and that's really cool. I just hope it's also kind of easy to pick up, and based off the UI, I feel like they're doing a good job here, but obviously only time will really tell. But you'll see different characters, Xeon, Valdi. Couple things. One, notice how our main character has clothes comparable to his friend, so that's interesting. But then also we're doing a chain attack, and it's involving 7 different characters.
Flashing before my eyes.
So the chain attack system's going to a whole other level.
The only thing that can change.
So I wonder if the different classes sort of can be swapped around, and there's different power-ups there.
All this is the will of Ouroboros.
Epic.
You kids, and you alone.
Not that I have all that much time to spare, but soon.
Finding a
And this is
path
just
that lets
a
us
pretty
all
game.
live.
This section actually reminds me of the
I will make
Satoral
that my
Marsh
mission.
from Xenoblade 1. So there may be a lot of like scenes and elements that remind us of previous games in different locales, even though the world has certainly changed, but it should have elements from both games sort of merged together there. But that's the trailer, and then we get the release timing of July 29, 2022. So let's talk about that for a little bit before we close things out here. What are the implications here? What's going on? Well, first I want to talk a little bit about the situation regarding this game and the rumors about it leading up to its announcement and what we know now. So last year we had reports that this game had been in development and it was a big project for Monolith Soft, and that Nintendo wanted it out last year. They wanted it out then, but obviously with COVID and all and just a big development project, they weren't able to do that. But a lot of things from that rumor have continually been proven to be true. So now with this year, we get initially a release timing for September, which to me was already kind of good news because I was kind of fearing that it would be pushed to 2023. And I felt like a September timing was actually a pretty solid timing for this game, especially with how ambitious it seems. But now, after the announcement of the delay of Breath of the Wild 2 to spring 2023, and also Advance Wars that has been delayed a couple times as well, this is really nice to see. We don't really see this too often. I can't think of a time Nintendo has decided to release a game sooner than later. Like actually give us a release timing and say, you know what, scratch that, let's release it 2 months earlier. I have never heard of that before. Usually a game either holds to its date or it's delayed. So this is just awesome, fantastic news, and I think it should just be appreciated. This is a pretty cool moment. We're getting this epic game that Monolith Soft has been sort of putting together, all hands on deck. They've been taking a lot of time here, really polishing it up. And I think we're looking at potentially the best Xenoblade game in the series. And even if it's not like objectively the best game in the series, at the very least, I think it has very serious potential to be the best selling. And I mean, compared to Xenoblade 2, as much as I love Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 2 was kind of rushed, and Xenoblade 2 was developed by a small team and in different parts of the world. This is a more cohesive project with a lot more people involved, as we've heard. So it's very exciting, and everything we're seeing here is looking very promising. It seems that they're kind of going away from the whole gacha mechanics thing and just focusing on the main core characters, and then obviously a few side characters as that additional party member. But that's way easier to handle than hundreds of other characters that you sort of get in a random kind of way. So with a more concerted effort here, I think there's going to be more content and more quality. So that's exciting. And I think this is just very, very promising news. But also, with the game coming out earlier, it does make you wonder, why did Nintendo do that? Why? Like, September was fine. Why July? Well, we know that Splatoon 3 has been slated for summer, but they never gave us a specific timing. And if you think about it, we go back to the February Direct, they told us more about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and even gave us a release month than Splatoon 3 and just told us summer. But September implies that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 would be coming out after Splatoon 3 if it's Splatoon 3 is supposed to come out summer, right? For the most part, there's some wiggle room there. But now that they've decided to release this game even sooner, it does make me think that pretty much for sure Splatoon 3 is coming out after Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There's like almost no doubt there. With both Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes due out for June, and then Monster Hunter Rise expansion and now Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for July, it feels pretty safe to say that Splatoon 3 is probably coming out later. We haven't gotten much details on it. It's looking like that game may be delayed somewhat. And I'm not saying delayed out of 2022. I think it's still coming out this year, but perhaps it's coming out closer to the holidays. Now, maybe it still comes out September. Maybe that, and they're sort of swapping dates there. Maybe Splatoon 3 needed a little bit more time. And September's still pretty early on into the year. I think that'll be fine. But it also does make me wonder about what's coming beyond that, right? With no Breath of the Wild 2, Nintendo's gonna probably want to have some sort of other major game to come out close to the holidays. Obviously they have Pokemon, but if you look at last year, it ain't just gonna be Pokemon, right? Last year in October and November we got Metroid Dread, Mario Party, Pokemon, and Shin Megami Tensei 5. So Nintendo's gonna be announcing a few other things probably around June. But regardless, we're getting Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in July, and that is amazing. Anyways, everyone, that's all for now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.